All right. Now on the APEC VIP hotline, cutting-edge training for the serious athlete, apecgo.com. Joining us from WVUE Fox 8 Sports in New Orleans, it's Jennifer Hale. How you doing, Jennifer?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing very well. Thanks for coming on with us today. Now, you broke the exclusive story, I guess, last night about Tyrann Mathieu remaining in drug rehab, that he's been there all week. Tell us a little bit about how all this came together.
I live in the French Quarter, and his father, Tyrann, is the UPS delivery driver for the Quarter. So I've known him for years, and I've covered Tyrann through LSU. I've done sideline reporting for them for a while as well for their website, lsusports.net. So we've been friends, and we've kept in touch. Of course, when the news broke last Friday of his dismissal, I immediately called Mr. Tyrann just to check in on the family. So we've been kind of talking about this all week long. And at first, they didn't want to reveal Tyrann was in rehab. He's 20. They wanted him to have his privacy. They didn't want him to be bombarded or judged. But as the hype has built up to be so big about, is he going to LSU and sitting out football? Is he going to play for a smaller school? Mr. Tyrann called me last night and said, we've come to the decision that he's going to stay in rehab, and that's the best place for him. He's going to commit to this rehab long term, or as long as it takes to get the problem under control. And I think we should probably go ahead and announce that to the public so we can quell some of these questions. So that's exactly what we did. The family felt like no matter where he went, LSU or some other school to play football, it was not going to be a successful endeavor if he still had this substance abuse problem. And Tyrann agreed.
Okay, and so what kind of mood is the family in right now? First of all, after the news came out that the Honey Badger had been kicked off the LSU football team and now going through all of this.
Oh, what an emotional roller coaster. If you can only imagine your child being removed from the team he loves and his future in such question. Tyrann himself was so upset, so shattered to lose the opportunity to play football. I think it took 2 or 3 days for the reality to really set in. I think they, for the first day or two, were really hoping, okay, how do we get back on LSU's team? What do we need to do? And come Monday, Tuesday, Mr. Tyrann said, okay, we're really accepting the fact that, hey, we've got a problem and we need to deal with it, and we need to deal with that problem before we consider anything else. Classes, football, that's just details at this moment. John Lucas, if folks are familiar, former NBA star who battled his own cocaine and alcohol addiction successfully and now run the treatment center specifically geared for athletes, contacted the Matthews last Friday and said, look, I think I can help your son. I think you should send him to me. And I think that has given the Matthews a lot of hope. I think they believe, and I agree, that a large part of Tyrann's issue isn't so much substance abuse, it's learning how to deal with this instant, huge amount of fame. This is a kid who went to a small private school. He was not highly recruited coming out of high school. LSU was the only big-name program that showed interest in him, and it was at the 11th hour. So he kind of goes from an unknown to being the Honey Badger, 153,000 Twitter followers.
Wow.
All of these people wanting to be his friend and latch on. I don't think he really knows how to handle that, and that's part of what John Lucas is helping him with, not just the substance abuse part.
Just too much too fast.
That's what the parents believe, yes, absolutely.
How bad do you think his drug problem is?
I'm not a drug counselor, so I hate to speculate, but we're talking about marijuana, which isn't, in a lot of cases, very highly addictive. So I do think there's more to it than just a substance abuse addiction issue. I do think it's more of a mindset and a mental state of how do I handle all this and not be overwhelmed by it and turn to something not healthy to help me handle it.
How long will he be in rehab there? Any idea?
Yeah, I asked that exact question to his dad last night, and they don't know. It's really John Lucas's call. They are going off of what he recommends. John Lucas was the one who said, I think Tyrann needs to stay. They had talked about bringing him home maybe today. And Lucas is the one who advised him, no, if you want to do what's right for him. And he told Tyrann the same thing. This is Tyrann's decision, too, not just his parents. You need to stay here. You need to commit to whatever amount of time it takes. I can't give you what that is. We're going to have to work through the process and see how you do. Okay.
Do you see any scenario where he returns to LSU as a football player?
That's a question for Les Miles and the LSU staff. The Matthews certainly would be very open to that idea. But football is not the focus right now. They're not letting themselves go there. So they're going to get him healthy, and then they're going to explore their options. And if that is one that's on the table, I think they'd be overjoyed.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, obviously he's got bigger issues right now to deal with, but it would be a wonderful thing to see him be able to get his life turned around and then return to LSU and continue what looked like it was going to be a spectacular career. They've got to be incredibly disappointed when you come into a season where he's already finished third in the Heisman voting last year, and so many expectations. So much high hopes going into this thing. It had to be just a devastating thing to see all this happening to their son.
Crushing. The whole family has been somewhat in mourning, and like I said, in shock as well, because they thought everything was going so well. But it took them a couple days. Reality's kind of set in. They're a very real family. 5 children, 2 adopted, 3 biological. Mr. Tyrone is a UPS driver. Miss Sheila's a nurse. You know, this is a family who prays together, who eats together, who deals with things together, and they're not sticking their head in the sand on what the real issue is, and they're ready to attack it as a family unit.
Well, it's a great story. And tell me what you're going to be doing now to follow this in the coming days, weeks, months.
Well, of course, you know, I speak with the family every day, and Tyrann and I are in touch. But we're going to take this at what pace is right for him. I think people need to remember this is a 20-year-old. Because of his fame and because of his name, it does thrust him into the spotlight, and it does make people a lot more interested with a lot more access. But we want to do what's right for Tyrann. This is a kid who could have a very bright future ahead of himself. We're going to be visiting with Tyrann and perhaps John Lucas down the road when they say, hey, we're ready for this. So stay tuned. We'll let you know when that happens.
All right. And how can people keep up with all of this? I know you got different websites, and you're on WVUE in New Orleans. So tell us how people can follow that.
Probably the best way is on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @JenHale504, JenHale, and then New Orleans is area code 504. Or my website is jenniferehale.com. Jennifer Hale are 2 of the most common names in the world, so I just read that middle initial in there.
I like it. Jennifer, great job on the story, and we really do appreciate you giving us some time today. I know it's been a very busy day for you, but we thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Jennifer Hale on Bryan Houston Sports Radio Live on 99.3 Talk FM.